The gaming industry is facing a massive shift right now, and Sony appears to be caught right in the middle of it. For months, rumors and leaks pointed toward 2027 as the target year for the release of the PlayStation 6. However, recent official statements suggest that Sony is stepping back and reconsidering its launch schedule. Company executives have admitted that a release date for the next-generation hardware has not been locked in. This uncertainty reveals a growing level of hesitation within Sony as the corporate strategy attempts to navigate an unpredictable market, shifting player habits, and rising production costs. To understand why the PlayStation 6 is facing potential delays, it is necessary to look at the current state of the PlayStation 5 generation. The PS5 era has been unusual compared to past console cycles. While the leap from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 brought essential technical improvements, such as ultra-fast solid-state drives and native 4K output, the overall software ecosystem has evolved at a much slower pace. Game development cycles have expanded significantly, often taking 5 to 7 years for a single major title. As a result, players have seen fewer generation-defining exclusive games compared to previous eras. At the same time, the broader economic climate for home consoles has grown challenging. Sony has faced public pushback over price increases on existing hardware and peripheral accessories. Furthermore, recent platform-wide service disruptions have brought renewed attention to the vulnerabilities of modern digital ecosystems. When network services go offline, access to cloud saves, digital storefronts, and multiplayer features is temporarily halted. These events have sparked debates among consumers regarding the push toward an all-digital future, where physical media is gradually replaced by software downloads and streaming services. Beyond consumer sentiment, global hardware manufacturing has introduced significant hurdles for console creators. Building a modern gaming console requires securing advanced semiconductor chips, specialized memory modules, and specialized internal components years before a product hits store shelves. Right now, tech companies are competing heavily for manufacturing bandwidth. The massive rise of artificial intelligence infrastructure has led enterprise AI firms to buy up large quantities of high-end silicon chips directly from major foundries. Because component manufacturers are prioritizing high-margin AI hardware, consumer electronics brands like Sony must bid against massive technology conglomerates to secure the necessary supply lines. This dynamic drives up the base cost of memory and processing hardware across the entire gaming sector. If Sony purchases advanced components at peak market prices, producing the PlayStation 6 becomes exceptionally expensive. Releasing a console built on high-cost components leaves a manufacturer with difficult choices: sell the hardware at a significant loss, or launch the system at a high retail price point that risks alienating budget-conscious gamers. This supply chain pressure is causing Sony to re-evaluate its overall corporate focus. Over the past several years, the company has transitioned from a pure hardware manufacturer into a broader entertainment and intellectual property enterprise. Revenue streams are now diversified across film production, television series, music publishing, and software services. Major gaming franchises are being adapted into high-budget live-action television shows and films. While a new console release remains an important strategic milestone, hardware sales no longer serve as the sole pillar supporting the company's financial stability. This corporate evolution influences how Sony approaches software production for the future. Modern game studios are investigating new development pipelines to streamline project timelines and manage budgets. Industry discussions frequently cover automated testing tools, updated engine frameworks, and revised workflows aimed at reducing development times. However, creating high-end narrative games remains a labor-intensive process. Even with optimized tools, building complex virtual environments, detailed animations, and extensive voice work require substantial time and capital investment. Because game development schedules are so long, publishers must plan their software lineups far in advance. Unconfirmed industry reports suggest that internal development teams are already working on early project concepts designed around next-generation architecture. Yet, bringing those projects to market presents a structural dilemma. If a major game takes over 5 years to produce, a studio might only release one major title per console generation. This dynamic makes both developers and players cautious about jumping into a new console era before the current hardware generation has been fully utilized. Historically, every transition between PlayStation hardware generations was driven by a clear and simple technological leap. The shift to the PlayStation 2 introduced standard DVD playback alongside vastly expanded 3D environments. The PlayStation 3 brought high-definition graphics and the cell broadband engine. The PlayStation 4 elevated online social integration and high-density textures. The PlayStation 5 eliminated loading screens with custom solid-state drives. Each transition offered an easily recognizable upgrade that motivated consumers to buy new hardware at launch. The prospective shift to the PlayStation 6 faces a different consumer dynamic. Graphical fidelity across high-end gaming platforms has reached a point of diminishing returns, where visual improvements between generations are increasingly subtle. Furthermore, a substantial segment of the active gaming audience continues to play modern releases on current-generation consoles or PC platforms. Because the PlayStation 5 remains fully capable of running modern software with high performance, many players feel little urgency to move on to a brand new system. This dynamic creates a complex environment for Sony as it plans its long-term hardware roadmap. Moving forward too quickly risks launching an expensive console into a market that feels satisfied with existing technology. Conversely, delaying the hardware allows supply chains and manufacturing costs to normalize, while giving internal game studios more time to complete true next-generation titles.